So Coach Martin, our offensive coordinator, is already trying to figure out ways to get the football into Tommy Flanagan's. He's out of Bear Creek. Jordan Knutson's a young man out of CSU, is a defensive end, another guy trying to get some people in there to replace Mason Brodeen. Josh Crowell is a young man that's not too far from Kearney, out of a little town, Ravenna, Nebraska. But he was at Morningside College, which is a D3 school, but I think they were ranked number 3 or 4 in the country. He led them in rushing last year. Very good athlete. Shad Bride, I think some guys might have chased Shad around. He's out of northern Arizona. Another H-back type guy, running back. Probably doesn't have the vision that you're really looking for in a premier type running back like Rustin Dring might have, or Jesse Lewis might have, or some of those other guys. But I think if he got out in the open, I don't know that there's anybody in the RMAC that might be able to run him down. And the guy that, you know, coaches have talked about this, and I complain about this. Bob goes through it all the time, replacing coaches. I got another defensive line coach again by the name of Tom Everson. Tom was at James Madison, Wyoming a couple times. He's an older gentleman, great guy, fit in well for us, do a good job with the defensive line. We had a young man that we recruited out of high school named Sandy Standback, who came out of high school, heavyweight wrestling champion. You know, I touted him, he was going to be great. He went from like 300 to 355 in a heartbeat. He's down to 290, and I watched him dunk a basketball behind his head the other day. Very excited to see how Sandy shows up on the field. He can play from sideline to sideline at 290, so excited about Sandy Standback. And with Tom being an older coach and maybe being able to handle his personality a little bit, I think that might be positive. So I agree with where we're picked to the point that we'll be a competitive football team. There's not a coach in this room doesn't think they can win the RMAC, and like Coach said, if they do, they shouldn't be in here. So we feel like we'll be a good football team again. The 5 guys we got at UNO, and the other guys are going to add tremendous depth and talent to our football team. Our goal, and I think the mission that we have at UNK this year, is probably trying to get those guys to come together, those guys to become lopers, so to speak, those guys to begin to buy into our program. It's still weird for those UNO guys. They're in Kearney, but you can tell it's still weird for them to put on something that's blue, or put on a blue helmet here in the very near future. So we've got to get those guys to all kind of develop some chemistry and some cohesiveness. I think if we can do that, then I think we are going to be a pretty salty football team. Not saying we can win a game. I'm just going to say we're going to be salty. So anybody have any questions?
Coach, you've done pretty well recruiting the state of Colorado, I guess with the exceptions of Jesse Lewis and Tim Hyatt and these guys, but you have had some success getting kids out of Colorado to come to Kearney. Do you anticipate to keep that Colorado pipeline open once you move to the MIAA?
Well, last year I wasn't real sure what we were going to do about that. This year I can tell you that we won't leave the Front Range. And the guys that coach in this league and the guys that coach against the MIAA and the guys that play against MIAA schools, Bob's played Washburn a couple times and you know, that kind of stuff. The MIAA is an easy sell, plain and simple. You start talking to a kid from Colorado, California, Arizona, and they can start naming teams in that league. So I don't see any reason. It didn't hurt us this year, even though guys, I'm sure, tried to spin it against the travel and go in the opposite direction, that kind of thing, but there's been no reason for us to leave the Front Range so far.
Coach, which road trip are you going to miss most in the RMAC?
Holy crap, all of them. I mean, you know, everybody doesn't like to come to Kearney, and Kearney don't like to go there either. So, I mean, Gunnison's a long way, Grand Junction's a long way, New Mexico Highlands is a long way. We've always been fortunate to be able to charter a flight down to Silver City. But, you know, the travel in this league is a huge, huge deal. I laugh and chuckle at Division I coaches when they start whining about, oh, geez, we got 3 hours, we're going to have to ride a bus. How are the kids going to play? What about their legs? And I just laugh about that, the way that the kids in this league can ride a bus for 2 days, get off and play college football and play it at a high level, and then get back on the bus and ride all the way back home and then go to class the next day and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to miss any of the RMAC road trips. When I was younger and driving a van, I was a road warrior. Now I'm 52 years old and I can't stand it. So, you know, I'm ready to get out.
Coach, this question's from Garrett on Facebook. Do you think your defensive backfield will be improved from last year's team?
I do think we still have Arthur Hobbs, who's a good football player at the corner. We've got some younger guys that you know, took some lumps last year because we had a couple true freshmen playing back there last year. Ryan Lindgren looks good, but I think Trey Willeberger and Jordan Boston and Kelby Sale, those guys coming out of UNO's program will be able to add some depth to us and also some playing experience in the MIAA. So I think we'll be a little bit better football team coming out of that in the secondary. So again, I'm very excited about this year. It's going to be an interesting task and an interesting challenge for us to get you know, about 12 transfer type guys to come together and become Lopers, and you know, it'll just be interesting to see what kind of an impact they make on our program.